Walking across town, we made our way to the offices of Rudder Finn, the 10th largest public relations company in North America.
This is Miss Simon.
You guys are not in there.
Yes, we actually have put all three of his books on the bestseller list. We've kept them up there for years at a time. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We're going to David's office.
I interviewed David Hahn, Vice President of Planned Television Arts, the publicity arm of Rudder Finn. David, thank you so much for being on our program.
Thank you, David. I'm glad to be with you.
David, I wanted to begin by talking a little bit about your clients. When I flew up here December 5th last year, you had just finished working with Barbara Bush on her memoirs, a book that I saw being featured in bookstores across this country.
What we did for Barbara was something we do for a lot of our clients, which is called spot publicity. We did a morning drive radio tour for her, which, David, I know you're familiar with. And that's where we line up 20 top radio talk shows all in one morning. And the idea there is Barbara did a series of back-to-back interviews with the major talk stations, which are very influential around the country all in one morning. So you're talking KTRH in Houston, and KRLD in Dallas, and then WBZ in Boston, WOR here in New York, the big news talk stations that people listen to on the way to work while they're listening in their cars or getting ready for work at home. The idea behind the Morning Drive radio tour, which we started 4 years ago, is to hit that huge Morning Drive audience. We estimate that we hit anywhere from 6 to 8 million people that morning in terms of an audience. So they all heard Barbara talking about her book.
On 20 different stations?
On 20 different stations.
You travel with the sun, going east to west, I take it.
You got it.
Now, David, I know you work with literally hundreds of authors, many of the large publishing houses. In fact, as I mentioned a while ago, I was touched. I came in here this morning only to find that you've been given a new book, this contract with America, the bold plan by Republican Newt Gingrich, Dick Armey and the House of Republicans, etc. Tell me a little bit about the kind of people you've worked with. I mean, does it run the gamut, everything from sports to politics to cooking schools?
Sure. In terms of our clients,
yes.
We've done full range. We've done people like Barbara DeAngelis, who's one of the best-known relationship experts in the country right now, to political writers like E.J. Dionne. We've also handled sports celebrities, everybody from Dave Winfield, Yogi Berra, people like that, when their books have come out, as well as some entertainers that are quite well known, Smokey Robinson, to give you an example. We tend to do mostly nonfiction books. We do a lot of political, social issue type books. I've got a couple clients coming up this spring. One, a very well-known Israeli journalist who has a new book out on Arafat that I think will be of great interest to people. Danny Rubenstein is his name, and also a new biography on Eric Sevareid. We also do a lot of work with entertainment clients, whether it be movies, TV shows, helping to promote them. We even handle Sally Jesse Raphael, for instance. We'll do a satellite tour with her where she's talking to her affiliate stations and getting on-air interviews to talk about her own show. So you have TV talking about TV. But in general, we are handling big projects for the New York publishing houses. We also work a lot with regional presses around the country, Christian publishers, Thomas Nelson, for instance. This past fall, we worked with Hugh Downs on a very important book he had on aging in America called 50 to Forever, the well-known host of 2020. We also worked with Dr. Kenneth H. Cooper on a book called The Antioxidant Revolution. Again, Dr. Cooper is very well known. He is the man who is known as the guru of aerobics that he started back in the late 60s. And this was an important health book on vitamins and what is appropriate amounts to take and antioxidants and how they play a role in our health. So, yes, we've done
soup
to nuts.
Recently, I was reading Time magazine. They came out with an edition with Rush Limbaugh on the cover. And in it was a fascinating point. It turns out that the Republican National Committee took their message of the contract to America, to the talk shows of this country. 300 talk shows. That was a major vehicle they used. They also used TV Guide, of course. So evidently, the use of talk shows is something that's being found to be politically not just feasible, but quite advantageous.
The Morning Drive Radio Tour is something we're doing with the Contract with America book for Random House. They are the publisher of that book, which is a bestseller. And they've hired us to work with 6 Republican Congress people who will be talking with their home states on the morning drive shows and stations in their districts. So, you know, publishers are savvy. They recognize the importance of talk radio. And we'll be conducting those interviews over the next month with 6 different Congress people. So that's a very powerful and important tool.
Is Newt Gingrich one of them?
No, unfortunately.
He's not.
He's got his own show.
I'm holding in my hand a copy of the contract that we've signed with you. And right at the top of the list is the road tour. You've got the National Media Campaign, print tour, morning drive radio tour. I wonder if you could tell our audience a little bit about what you have planned for us. Where do you intend taking us? How do we impact this country with the message that we have in our book, The New Illustrated Great Controversy? What are you going to do first?
The main thing is, do you have something to talk about? Does the media see an opportunity to talk about an issue that is on people's minds? And from what I understand of your organization and the book, we do. So that's the key thing. Once we have that, then everything falls in place. In terms of media interest, I think there's a list that comes out on the top 10 issues that talk shows are addressing these days, radio talk shows. And I've seen that list over the past several months, and it's always Contract with America issues, whether it be school prayer, health reform, welfare. These issues are coming up constantly. Separation of church and state is an evergreen topic. The talk shows always want to talk about those key issues. And given that, we know the media. That's the other thing. We have been in business for over 30 years. We're entering our 34th year of business as a media placement agency, which means we talk to the producers every day. We know exactly what they're looking for. We talk to approximately 500 key decision makers at radio stations, TV stations, at newspapers, at magazines every day. 500 calls and discussions go on. We have a large staff, about 30 people, and we have a full range of services, so we know how to use the latest technology to make it convenient for the media to talk to you, David Mould, as a spokesperson. But to go back to the road tour, which was the other vehicle you mentioned, that's been a standard for book publicity for over 25 years now. It's very important to get out and meet people face to face and get to know the local towns, the local media, and get a feel for them, and for them to get a feel for you. Road tours consist of an author going into a market, and in one day we would book anywhere from 4 to 6 interviews, possibly more if we can, if the issue is right. And that would be a mix of TV and radio interviews along with print interviews with local newspapers, magazines, weeklies, that sort of thing. Road tours are very important for developing a local image wherever you go around the country. And it's also something where we target certain cities depending on what your message is and what markets you want to reach.
What's the cost of, let's say, hitting New York with a road tour for our book?
You start right at the top. New York is anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. It depends on the project and what the budget is for the publisher.
Okay. You were making a statement that if we got on 60 Minutes, we would have to pay you, what was it for 60 Minutes? $4,000 if you booked us.
Our national fees, we think, are probably the most reasonable in the industry, and it's also in line with our whole philosophy, is that your success is our success and vice versa. We don't charge a retainer basis. We do occasionally, and if a client requires that, then fine, we're happy to work on a retainer fee, but most of the time we work on a per project basis where we say what the project is and we give you a budget, and or we do a per placement fee, which is what we do with national media. If we get you on the Today Show, if we get you on Good Morning America, if we get you on Larry King, then you owe us a certain amount of money. So that's something that clients with smaller budgets, small presses have enjoyed over the years, and it's worked quite well. And the reason we can do that is we know what those shows want. We work all the time with the primetime shows, the daytime panel shows like Oprah, Donahue, Sally Jesse, Montel Williams, Ricky Lake. So we know what they want, and we know the producers on a first-name basis. That's also true of the network morning shows. And I think that your ability to get on those shows will be based on our ability to start a local campaign that develops your profile with the local media and take that to a higher profile once we've established some good interviews, some good tear sheets based on your print interviews with local papers. Then we can really have some ammunition to place you on shows like 2020, Dateline NBC, as well as the Oprahs and Donahues.
You wanted to start with CNN. I remember the first meeting I had, and you also wanted to go with print early. Would you
Right.
develop that for me?
Sure.
Why CNN?
People look to CNN as a major source of news, so if you can get on CNN, it establishes you as a very credible figure. In particular, shows like Crossfire and Larry King, or even CNN's Morning News, give you visibility and credibility. That's the key word for taking you on to the next plane of shows. We also have a great deal of interaction with CNN, so I feel very comfortable starting with that as a venue. The reason for getting print, as we've discussed in other meetings, is a lot of the broadcast media will pick up on things they see in the local papers. I've had a number of bookings, whether it be Oprah, Dateline NBC, Primetime Live, Donahue, Larry King, for instance, based on those producers for those shows reading something in their local paper.
Okay.
And that could be something in USA Today, could be something in Time Magazine, the Washington Post, doesn't matter. Whenever you can get a number of print articles running around the country, there's usually a groundswell in terms of interest from the broadcast media.
David, I'm looking at this contract, and in here under the section dealing with the newspaper feature service, you indicate that you'll be able to, at least you'll approach some 7,000 papers to get our message across the country. Now, how do you intend doing this? What's the method, what's the mechanism for getting in touch with these newspapers?
The MAP service is a service that's very well established, where our writers would work with you in developing a story, a pre-written story that's camera ready, that would go out to 7,000 print outlets. This is a full range of papers, from dailies such as the Cincinnati Post, Washington Post. A lot of papers pick these articles up, to weeklies found around the country. You're a suburban weekly that you might pick up at the grocery store. That's why there's so many outlets. The piece goes out as a camera-ready piece, and it is the editorial decision of each print outlet to see whether or not they want to pick it up.
I see what you're saying. So even though you might approach 7,000 papers, you're not guaranteeing the story is going to be run
No,
in those
I wish we
7,000.
could, but
Yes.
we do get a full report. We get tear sheets on where the stories ran, and depending on what the story is and the timeliness, that's the key thing, that you have something with a timely hook, the pickup can be quite impressive. And again, it's very cost effective.
What's impressive to you?
Anything in, I'd say, the dailies in the top 50 markets. Say you got something to run in the Houston Post, the Denver Post, those kind of papers. That to me is, because it doesn't take any of your time. All you've done is written the article and send it on out. So there isn't a lengthy interview process.
Now, the satellite television tour, you've indicated that that's a medium which is used primarily during the lunch hours as you move across the country with the interviews via satellite. And I'm quite interested in that. You feel that the audience there is more concerned with relationships and health and that sort of a thing. Well, it's interesting. If the political stuff that Ellen White commented about in her book, for example, this image of the church raping the Constitution, you know, if this is too strong for your noonday audience, then we can talk about health, because much of her writings are concerned health. In fact, she was quoted by the American Medical Association when they interviewed Seventh-day Adventists to find out why the incidence of cancer with us was so far less than everybody else. It basically went back to the fact that she advocated a vegetarian diet years ago.
Our satellite TV tour is also very popular, like the Morning Drive radio tour. It has a great impact in a very short amount of time. It basically consists of a spokesperson sitting down in a studio, could be New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. We can do it pretty much from any studio in the country, where we have satellite capabilities. In other words, we uplink with a satellite, and what we've done is hook up 22 stations who do successive interviews. Again, it's back-to-back interviews with the top markets around the country, where they interview our spokesperson, all done in 2.5 hours. So in 2.5 hours, you can hit 22 markets in terms of a 5-minute piece. It's often taped because of the nature of satellite interviews, but sometimes it's even live. It's extremely cost-effective, again, because you're getting on TV shows. You don't have to do an extensive road tour to get on these local affiliates. It's an important vehicle for authors who don't have a lot of time, or for an organization that wants to have a big push in a relatively short amount of time with their message.
And I go back to my original point. The fact that the Republican National Committee chose talk radio as a vehicle for getting their point across, 300 interviews. You're talking about doing 30 or 50 with me. I hope we can get up there in the hundreds. As a, if in fact it can be done, I hope we will do it.
If you have the time, we have the bookings. Right.
What?
That's the key thing. If there's a limit to sometimes just the stamina. But if you've got that kind of stamina, we could do 100 interviews in that first 2 to 3 week period. David, we're looking forward to working with you. I've enjoyed meeting you and getting to know more about you. Also, the organization sounds very interesting, and most importantly, in terms of what we do, this is a message that the media wants to hear. They want to hear from people who are concerned about this issue of the First Amendment, separation of church and state. Where are we going in terms of the Republican Party? Where is the contract with America, sometimes referred to as contract on America? Where is this all taking us? And a lot of the media want to hear from people like you.
I believe we have some answers.
Great.
Thank you.